Welcome back to another video, and this is just a little short video I wanted to make on the topic of the dangers of working in the composites industry, or the dangers of working in Formula 1, carbon fiber laminating or trimming. So yeah, I mean, there's various things you can do, there's various ways you can injure yourself or dangers you could come into in this industry, right? But I'm going to be talking in this video specifically about composites laminating or trimming. Now, whilst in the composites laminating or trimming environment, you shouldn't come into a situation where you would fatally injure yourself. I mean, fingers crossed, there's nothing to laugh about that. Don't know why I'm laughing. But equally, you can harm yourself and injure yourself pretty badly in certain cases. I mean, there are certain things, certain items, certain tools that we work with which can be a bit dangerous sometimes if you don't know what you're doing, or if you make a mistake, because we can all make mistakes, and I've injured myself, and I will give some instances, some examples in this video as well. So if you're squeamish, or if you don't like talking about gore, I'm not going to go too hardcore into details, so don't worry about that, all right? And YouTube, if you're watching, please chill out. We're not going to go too hardcore into this. We're just going to go surface level around this sort of stuff, right? So here are various ways you can injure yourself in composites laminating or trimming in the Formula 1 industry. So number one thing is autoclaves and ovens. So obviously you have to be extremely careful opening up these very hot ovens, which could heat up to, you know, over 100 degrees basically when doing some temperature debugs and things like that with your tools, with your pads that you're making at the time. So you have to be very careful wearing gloves and handling these hot metal valves and things like that. You don't want to burn your hands. I know a hell of a lot of people who accidentally touch them or the corners of the oven with their elbows, with their bare skin and stuff like that. So you have to be very, very careful. The exact same thing applies to the autoclaves, because as you can imagine, those can heat up to several hundreds of degrees. So imagine the metal valves on them are going to be like boiling hot. So you're going to be very, very careful touching that and waiting for the things to cool down as well, mainly, so that you obviously don't burn yourself and so that the autoclave doesn't possess any risk. But obviously we're not going to talk about any silly things like people getting closed and shut in the autoclave when it's running or anything like that. I don't think that's ever happened historically, although there is a rumor in the industry of apparently somebody at a contractor, maybe at a company, this is what I've been hearing all over the place for some reason, getting shot in the clave as a joke, and then they've opened and let him back out. This is probably made up. If you know otherwise, if you think this is real, let me know in the comments below. I hope it's not real, because it's pretty mental. This one applies more to sort of trimming slash breakout. If you don't know, composites includes various different ways of how the actual final product is made. So you've got your laminators, which actually laminate and create the products by layering plies of carbon fiber on top of each other in these molds to create the pad, which then gets cured in the autoclave, which then will get trimmed by the trimmers, and obviously then will get finished and fitted to the car, essentially inspected, etc. So essentially that's how the pads are made. If I can just break it down into the short little section so that I don't have to go too deep into it, let me know in the comment section below if you would like to see a video of me just going really deep and detailed into every single step of how a carbon fiber pad is made, because I can do that for you as well. So when it comes to trimming, obviously these molds, when they are broken out of these pads, when they're broken out of their molds, will have very extremely sharp edges, which will genuinely be just as sharp as a scalpel blade. You can very easily essentially scratch, stab, or cut yourself on these pads, obviously. So it's very extremely important that most of these molds, especially the ones that are going to be used multiple times, obviously for tooling, are first hand saved. So it's extremely important that these pads are first hand saved and made sure that they're going to be handled safely, and that you're not going to be in a risk of cutting your hands every single time you touch these pads. And secondly, obviously when breaking out, is extremely important for whoever's breaking these pads out doesn't handle the carbon with bare hands, but with sort of like cut-proof gloves, if you know what I mean. Oh, the camera is falling again, and I saved it last second. What an absolute legend. Now, obviously, you can easily cut yourself on a sanding blade or anything like that. There's various different ways you can injure yourself. And as you can imagine, obviously, shoving a little grinding disc down deep inside the mold, which you can barely reach into and see into because you need to hand save something. Yeah, you can very easily, the tool can slip out of your hand and you can injure yourself. So it's very important that you Yeah, handle these tools very safely and you know what you're doing. Obviously, we mustn't forget the dangers of carbon dust and breathing in carbon dust. So you will be wearing things like your actual mask with different filters attachments. You'll be wearing things like certain bodysuits and certain, like, essentially hazmat suits, right? So you obviously protect your skin from carbon dust as well, because it can very easily get into your pores and irritate your skin, which is also not very nice, which is something that also resin can do in certain materials that you'll be laminating. Like, for example, for me, in my personal case, when doing tooling to laminate molds, the heavy tooling material, the resin can really irritate my skin. Now, obviously, another way which is very common a way of injuring yourself in the composites laminating industry is cutting yourself with a scalpel, because we are working with scalpels and Stanley blades essentially every single day non-stop. So it is very easy for this blade to slip out of your hand and cut yourself with mainly your hands, your fingers. But one time there's an instance where I cut my thigh because I was sitting down doing a certain job, and the essentially scalpel slipped out of my hand, and as I was sat down it came sort of past my leg, and yeah, was very close to the crown jewel. So you got to be very, very careful out there. And so when it comes to the steel toes as well, there's one story which I'm going to give you right now, which is a very graphic story. It's a story of a guy which I've worked with actually, and I wasn't at the company when this has happened, but this is something that has just happened not long, maybe weeks, if not months, a couple of months before I've arrived at this company. And that is basically a heavy pattern block. And the corner of it slipped off of the forklift and it fell on this guy's foot, and like it crushed his foot basically, and like it was bleeding everywhere because he wasn't wearing steel toes, and it was crazy. And it was in the brace for months, and he had to be off work for ages, etc. I'm not going to obviously go too into detail because this is all anonymous, but that's the sort of stuff that can happen to you. So that is why it is important to wear steel toes and stuff like that as well. So yeah, remember that. Other dangers obviously could be working with heat guns, working with release chemicals, for example. You've got to make sure you wear your mask as well during some releases as well, because they can be very harmful to your lungs. The chemicals can be very irritating to your lungs as well, and they smell horrible, to be honest. Obviously protecting your eyes during breakout out of some of these pads, because as you can imagine, the resin in these materials in the pre-preg, as it comes out of the autoclave, when it's all cured, it sort of like creates this see-through layer, see-through film, like hardened glue, because that's essentially what it is, right? Resin is glue. And as you're breaking the part out, it starts snapping, it can fly all over the place, and it can very easily go into your eyes, and it's a pain in the ass to get out, and it's itchy and it stabs, and it's very irritating. Hence why a lot of places have like what was like an emergency eye wash kit essentially, because it's such a common thing to happen. So you're going to wear your little eyeglasses, eye goggles, to protect yourself from this sort of injury. Yeah, but these are the sort of risks I guess you're going to have to accept working in this industry, or maybe be a little bit better at preventing them, which you can do by wearing long sleeve jumpers, or by always protecting yourself in those ways, right? I mean, I know some people who don't even wear masks to release in some cases, which is crazy because it's obviously not very good for your lungs long term. But hey ho, right? We all sort of choose for ourselves. I mean, also stuff like spray glue. Obviously, make sure you don't spray your eyes and things like that. Because that is a pretty nasty type of glue. It's a very stringy sort of thing. And then other things, obviously, stuff like carrying pattern blocks. Be very careful not to pointlessly push yourself for no reason and carry a pattern block that's way too heavy to carry by yourself because you wanted to, I don't know, do it by yourself. You should have probably got somebody else to help you with it, or maybe even get forklifts in some cases, because I always like to first make sure that the plan around what pattern block is about to get lifted is in place before we actually do it, because of these injuries that I've heard of, or injuries that I can even picture and imagine in my head happening with in some cases where certain companies decide to, for some reason, not get a forklift because they want to cheap out, or because they want to do it on a quick, or they haven't got anybody in with a forklift license at the moment, so they're trying to quickly move it with like 3 or 4 different people shuffling it along. And you got to be very careful. You don't want to injure yourself at work, especially if you are a contractor. Nobody's going to pay for your, time off whilst you're injured. Nobody's going to look after you. You're there to look after yourself. But that, it applies in any case. Nobody's coming to save you. You have to look out for yourself. So be very careful working in the industry. Yeah, if you're a composite laminator or a trimmer, I'm sending all of my luck to you. I'm hoping that you're all safe out there, all right? Stay safe in the industry. And yeah, that is about it for this little video. I'm sure there's a million other ways you could probably injure yourself, or yeah, some other handful things in the industry, but this is just what I could think of off the top of my head on this field right now. Remember, I'm not running this off of any scripts. This is everything off the top of my head that I know or that I can remember. So yeah, plenty of more videos coming on the channel. If you're enjoying this type of content, if you learned something interesting, or perhaps if I've inspired you to maybe explore how to get into the industry or explore some other options in Formula One, let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, the sun is coming out. It's going to be a beautiful day. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, as I've said. And yeah, I'm off. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one.